Wonder who that is. Who are you?
I'm Blayne from Sauk Rapids, and I'm here looking for my brother.
Well, I'm Blayne from Sartell, but I don't have a brother.
Well, I've got some news for you.
William Shakespeare was born on April 23rd, 1564, to John and Mary Shakespeare in the village of Stratford-upon-Avon. He was the oldest surviving child of the two parents, as a number of his siblings died during infancy. Shakespeare's father, John, was the ideal citizen in Stratford, working as a leather worker, and then later on working in the local government. John went on to marry one of the daughters of the prominent Arden family named Mary. As William was a part of a more better-off family, he attended a school dedicated to teaching grammar until the age of 15. A few years after leaving school, William married Anne Hathaway in November of 1582. Anne was 8 years senior to William. While married, the couple produced 3 children, 2 daughters and 1 son.
The daughters were named Judith Quinney and Susanna Hall, while the son went by Hamnet Shakespeare. Hamnet died at the age of 11, whereas Judith and Susanna went on to marry well-to-do men in the Stratford area. After a number of years with no recording of what Shakespeare was doing, he finally turned up again in the city of London in 1592. While in London, Shakespeare joined in the company Lord Chamberlain's men, doing work acting, writing, and being a managing partner. This world-renowned group of men often performed in the presence of Queen Elizabeth I. Many of Shakespeare's plays were performed in the Globe Theatre, which had to be rebuilt due to a fire destroying it. William Shakespeare died on his birthday in 1616 of unknown causes. He was interred at Holy Trinity Church in Stratford on April 25, 1616.
The Comedy of Errors is the shortest of Shakespeare's 37 plays. It is also one of his most farcical comedies. Some ways Shakespeare incorporates humor is through puns, slapstick humor, play on words, and mistaken identities. The first recorded performance of Shakespeare's play was on December 28, 1594. It took place as part of the Christmas festivities in the Hall of Gray's Inn. It is debated over whether or not the play was composed in 1590 or in 1594, but many scholars believe the latter date is correct. The play was not published until 1623 in the first folio of his works.
Throughout the last few centuries, there have been a number of different adaptations of the play. The first was entitled Everybody Mistaken in 1716, and then See If You Like It in 1736, both performed in London. One of the most recent adaptations was in 1938, when a musical of the play, written by Rodgers and Hart, opened in New York. The musical, titled The Boys from Syracuse, was also later turned into a film.
William Shakespeare's play, The Comedy of Errors, is about 2 sets of twins that are separated at birth. One set of twins consists of Antipholus of Syracuse and Antipholus of Ephesus. They have a father, Aegeon, who is a Syracusan merchant. The other set of twins are Dromio of Syracuse and Dromio of Ephesus. Aegeon bought the Dromio twins to be servants for the Antipholus twins from a poor woman. When Aegeon, his wife, and both sets of twins were on Aegeon's boat, a terrible storm erupted. The boat crashed and the family was split in 2. Aegeon, Antipholus of Syracuse, and Dromio of Syracuse were rescued by one ship, while Aegeon's wife, Antipholus of Ephesus, and Dromio of Ephesus were rescued by another. During the beginning of the play, Antipholus of Syracuse and Dromio of Syracuse end up in the city of Ephesus after they have been traveling the world in search of their missing family members.
Meanwhile, Antipholus of Ephesus has earned a well-respected reputation as a merchant in the city of Ephesus. He is married to a woman named Adriana. Throughout the entire play, each twin repeatedly gets mistaken for the other, which, of course, creates a lot of confusion for everyone. The chaos begins when Dromio of Ephesus mistakes his master, Antipholus of Ephesus, for his twin Antipholus of Syracuse. Dromio of Ephesus begs Antipholus of Syracuse to come home because Adriana is mad they are late for dinner. Antipholus of Syracuse becomes confused because he doesn't have a wife, nor does he have a home in Ephesus to eat dinner at.
The scene then changes to Adriana, Antipholus of Ephesus' wife, who is impatiently waiting for her husband to come home for dinner. Adriana is accompanied by her sister Luciana. The two sisters get into a debate about the duties of being a good wife. Later on, the two sisters run into Antipholus of Syracuse and Dromio of Syracuse. Adriana, thinking she's talking to her husband when she actually isn't, immediately accuses Antipholus of Syracuse of infidelity. Antipholus of Syracuse becomes confused because he has never met Adriana before in his life. Adriana grows furious and demands that Antipholus of Syracuse come home for dinner. He reluctantly agrees, and the two sisters, Antipholus of Syracuse and Dromio of Syracuse, return to Antipholus of Ephesus' house to eat.
When they are all eating dinner, Antipholus of Ephesus and Dromio of Ephesus come back home. When the two men from Ephesus try to enter their house, however, they are denied access. They are not allowed in because it is believed that they are already inside the house eating dinner with the two sisters. This accusation makes Antipholus of Ephesus confused and enraged because he cannot enter his own house, but he eventually ends up leaving. The scene we are about to perform begins when Antipholus of Syracuse and Luciana, Adriana's sister, are alone.
Luciana accuses Antipholus of Syracuse of betraying Adriana, but he denies the accusation because he is not Adriana's husband. Instead, Antipholus of Syracuse starts to flirt with and declares his love for Luciana. Luciana becomes baffled because she thinks Antipholus should be flirting with Adriana instead. Dromio of Syracuse enters and has a discussion with Antipholus about how everyone is mistaking their identities. From William Shakespeare's The Comedy of Errors, we will now be performing a selection from Act 3, Scene 2.
Sing, siren, for thyself and I will dote, spread o'er the silver waves thy golden hairs, and as a bed I'll take them and there lie, and in that glorious supposition think, he gains by death that hath such means to die, let live, being light, be drowned if she sink.
What, are you mad that you do reason so?
Not mad, but mated. How, I do not know.
It is a fault that springeth from your eye.
For gazing on your beams, fair sun being by,
Gaze where you should, and that will clear your sight.
as good a wink, sweet love, as look on night.
Why call you me love? Call my sister so.
Thy sister's sister.
That's my sister.
No, it is thyself, mine own self's better part. Mine eye's clear eye, my dear heart's dear heart. My food, my fortune, and my sweet hope's aim. My soul earth's heaven, and my heaven's claim.
All this my sister is, or else should be.
Call thyself sister sweet, for I am thee. Thee will I love, with thee lead my life. Thou hast no husband yet, nor I no wife. Give me thy hand.
Oh, soft, sir, hold thee still. I'll fetch my sister to get her goodwill.
Why, how now, Dromio? Where runst thou so fast?
Do you know me, sir? Am I Dromio? Am I your man? Am I myself?
Thou art Dromio, thou art my man, thou art thyself.
I am an ass. I am a woman's man, and besides myself.
What woman's man, and how besides thyself?
Marry, sir, besides myself, I am due to a woman. One that claims me, one that haunts me, one that will have me.
What claim lays she to thee?
Marry, sir, such that you would lay to your horse, and she would have me as a beast. Not that I, being a beast, she would have me, but that she, being a beastly creature, lays claim to me.
What is she?
A very reverend body, such a one as a man may speak of, without he say, Sir Reverence. I have but lean luck in the match, and yet she is a wondrous fat marriage.
How dost thou mean a fat marriage?
Marry, sir, she's the kitchen wench, and all the grease, and I know not what use to put her to, but to make a lamp of her, and run from her by her own light. I warrant her rags, and the tallow in them, will burn from a pole in winter. If she lives till doomsday, she'll burn a week longer than the whole world.
What complexion is she?
Swart like my shoe, but her face nothing so clean kept. For why? She sweats.
Following the scene performed, Antipholus of Ephesus gets himself in a pickle. He ordered a gold chain for his wife Adriana, but the gold chain was given to Antipholus of Syracuse. When the goldsmith asks Antipholus of Ephesus for money for the chain, he refuses because he never received the chain. The goldsmith has him arrested and sent to jail. Antipholus of Ephesus sends Dromio of Syracuse, thinking he is Dromio of Ephesus, to get money to bail him out of jail.
Another comical scene arises when Dromio of Syracuse encounters Antipholus of Syracuse. Dromio gives Antipholus of Syracuse the money for Antipholus of Ephesus's bail. Antipholus of Syracuse becomes confused because he has absolutely no idea why Dromio is giving him all this money. Meanwhile, Adriana and Luciana run into Antipholus and Dromio of Ephesus. Adriana wishes to cure Antipholus of Ephesus's madness, so she orders a doctor. Antipholus of Ephesus rebukes this idea and explains how he is innocent.
Out of nowhere, Antipholus and Dromio of Syracuse enter with swords. In the end of the play, everyone is running around playing a game of he said, she said. Fingers are pointed and identities are mistaken. Eventually, when Adrian's wife enters with Antipholus and Dromio of Syracuse, the whole ordeal is sorted out. The mix-up of who was who in each scene is figured out. The two sets of twins are reunited, and the confusion subsides.
The selection of Act 3, Scene 2 exemplifies multiple themes that occur throughout the entire play. To begin with, the mistaken identity of Antipholus of Syracuse creates a sense of humor for the audience. The comical part of the play is brought out because the audience knows it is actually Antipholus of Syracuse rather than Adriana's husband, Antipholus of Ephesus. Because the audience has background knowledge on the real identities of characters, they can laugh at Luciana's confusion when Antipholus of Syracuse flirts with her.
Antipholus of Syracuse also embodies the themes of isolation and identity. Antipholus of Syracuse has many reasons to feel isolated. He does not know where half of his family is, he is in an unfamiliar city, surrounded by people he does not know, and he is not married. When Antipholus of Syracuse gets mistaken for being Adriana's husband, he questions his own identity. Trying to fill the empty hole in his heart, Antipholus reveals how he feels toward Luciana when they are together.
Much like with Antipholus of Syracuse and Luciana, the theme of love is also seen in Adriana and Antipholus of Ephesus's relationship. Their relationship is tested when Adriana accuses Antipholus of being unfaithful. The unstable relationship, filled with lack of communication and trust, also causes Adriana to be extremely jealous throughout the play. The theme of family, or lack of, is the last major theme of the Comedy of Errors. The separation of the family influences other themes in the play, like isolation, identity, and suffering. Characters like Antipholus of Syracuse and Aegeon feel lonely because they have no idea where their family is. Identities would not be constantly mistaken if the family hadn't been split up in the first place.
William Shakespeare's The Comedy of Errors has generally been well received and is a source of critical acclaim. It is indeed well named. Slapstick and absurd humor is prevalent throughout this short play. A professional review in the New York Times cites the play as a masterful stagecraft. It is much shorter than Shakespeare's other works, and therefore presents a direct and unified narrative that lacks the discursive style present in other Shakespearean works, particularly his comedies such as A Midsummer's Night Dream.
Noted in another professional review written by a professor at Webster University, The Comedy of Errors is one of Shakespeare's most outrageous works, and pushes the limits of plausibility and reality even more so than his other works. The Comedy of Errors fits the definition of a comedy for many reasons, including the slapstick humor and its farcical components. Despite being well written, the play does not compare to his other, more famous plays. This play does not have many weak points. The simplicity and ridiculousness of the plot makes it easy for the reader to follow along while reading, but there are no characters that jump out at the audience due to the constraints of the premise, and it lacks adequate character development.
Although the play consisted of different elements of humor, for us, there was no prominent scene that really stuck out. The Comedy of Errors lacks the continuous build-up to a significant singular climax that is featured in Shakespeare's other more famous works. In our view, the Comedy of Errors lacks this critical moment, and instead the play drags on with continuous finger-pointing and various he said, she said scenarios. As a result, the play came off as slightly anticlimactic and lacked a definitive resolution, which somewhat lost the attention of the reader.
We came into the world as brother and brother, so now let's enter hand in hand, not one before the other.